It's authentic.
Welcome back, everybody, to Hear Us Out, the music and media blueprint brought to you by myself, River, and my girl, Lottie. And today we have a very dope guest with us, Miss Junae Brown. What's up? How you
Hi,
feeling?
super happy to be here. Thanks again for having me.
Of
Thanks for joining
course,
us. We
I
appreciate you.
love it. Yes, thank you for joining us. It's about to be fire, y'all. For those of you who've been watching, for those of you who are just turning in, this season for Hear Us Out, we're having currency conversations with some of our favorite creative entrepreneurs, you feel me, artists, all of the creative things. And we're talking about how to build currency creatively. So we're excited to have Junae with us today. And we're just gonna get right into it because we want to hear all the good, juicy tea, the gems, all the stuff she's about to drop. For sure. So first and foremost, can you let us know, how do you identify like creatively and professionally?
Right now, this is such a good question to ask me. I really, and this might sound a little nuts to some people, but I really right now literally identify as the marketing plan. Um, Yeah, like I am the marketing plan. Like that's how I identify at this point. Like, yes, I've been an agency CEO for about to be 8 years now. Yes, I manage talent. Yes, I'm an entrepreneur, speaker outside of that. But professionally, I identify as the marketing plan because no matter what arena you catch me in, so if I'm doing brand campaigns, if I'm doing an experiential event, if I'm doing album releases, if I'm managing talent, if I'm, just doing my own personal branding, if I'm coaching other people on how to build their brand, at the end of the day, you come to me to help you build out your story, to help you get your point across, to help you connect to culture in the way you'd like to. And that's across all mediums and areas. And it took me a while to figure out that, like, that's my thing. It doesn't really matter, what the different nuances and niches, but that's how I identify right now. You come to me when you need to figure out how to translate what you do great. And so, yeah, that's how I identify right now.
You come to me when you need to figure out how to translate what you do great. Ooh, a bar. Starting
I
out with
love that
bars. We
though. I
love.
love that because that's literally what marketing is. You're translating, right? It's like, okay, how do I take this product or service or brand
Yeah,
and translate it in such a way that it's going to attract a certain type of audience or cause a certain type of action or this, that, and the third. So I really love that
yeah.
definition.
Thank you. It's how you build the world, right? Like whatever I'm approaching, it's like how do we build a universe around this special thing? And I think that's super important. Just the way the world works right now is that you kind of have to do that. You have to build, I know we talk about a lot about building community, but I'm like more like let's build a universe, right? Like because a community is going to be filled with various different aspects and they need different things at different moments, and so when you create that universe and people are able to kind of like consciously or subconsciously like come back consistently to that world you're building, I think that's incredible. And I think everyone right now who is building brands properly or experiences properly, like, and even that, right? Brands, experiences, this, that, it's universe. And so I think right now that that's how I identify as someone who builds those out authentically.
Ever since I've known you, you've been the Beyonce of marketing. So I love this I am the marketing because in some ways it's like the next era. I want to hear more about how you came to this.
Yeah, Lottie, you're spot on. I feel like I've been like Easter egging it, and people are kind of like, "What is she doing? What's going on?" People, even when I have meetings with people, they're like, "But before we get to what's on the count, what you doing right now?" But yeah, I think I'm always gonna be the Beyonce of marketing. It is something that will never leave. I mean, that thing follows me down the street. Honored, right? Because it's something that I really mean, right? Like, and I think I'm such a marketer, right? Because when I came up with it, it was twofold. Like there's the SEO factor of like you looking for Beyonce, you gonna find me, and everybody's looking for Beyonce, right? But then also just me feeling like Beyonce at this point is an adjective. Like it's a work ethic, it's a state of mind, it's how do you approach things creatively. Like she is very meticulous, she's very strategic, very creative, right? Innovative. And she also, every chance she gets, amplifies Black people, amplifies marginalized people, amplifies women. I think she also tries to give people in her own, like she controls her narrative, I also like that too. And she gives people excellence, but she also, I think, whether people notice it or not, tries to give you a full human scope of this, right? Like I am this otherworldly being, but I'm also just a human being, right? And I think that's something to be marveled at. And I was, when I was thinking of like, you know, what I wanted to represent and how I felt about the way I uniquely do things, that's what comes to mind. And, that's my realm. So that's really how Beyoncé of Marketing came about. And I said it once and it never left. I mean, people will not. And I think it's something, it's also fun. I think a lot of people, because I also kind of, I'm very much enmeshed in culture, but I also have like a very good community in terms of corporate marketing too. I've been blessed to also really thrive in that space and they love it, right? And most people on that side are not fun at all. All offense, not fun. And so it brings that, and it also reminds people that like not to take yourself so seriously, but take yourself seriously, right? And it's something that I'm honored stuck, and that I've been able to prove and live out. Like I think that's the part where people like too, is it's like 'cause everybody gives themselves a name, but are you living up to it? When they show up to something that you're doing, or they find out you're connected to something, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, your sauce was on this. And so that's Beyoncé of Marketing. And yeah, that's something, like I said, because it's not just something I came up with for fun, and it's something that I really try to embody. Um, it'll always be that. Like I think it'll always be that. So even as I like move into the era of I am the marketing plan, I mean, I think yeah, it's gonna be there.
So, talking about that transition, and you touched on corporate, right? And like your
Hmm.
experience there. Well, I want to
Yeah.
dive into that too, but I'm curious to know because you already let us know you've been a CEO. What sparked the inspiration to start building your own table versus, building someone else's? Like what was that moment like?
Yeah, so interesting. I've always wanted an agency. Like, I mean, I was like in college, early college, late high school, like, and I want an agency and I want a marketing and brand management company. Like, I want to market and I want to manage. Like, that was always the thing. But I thought it was gonna be like, okay, I've climbed the music industry ladder. I'm 55. Hello, guys. Look at my new passion project. Because you know how it goes, right? And that's no shade. It's just how it usually goes. It's usually people that are like, okay, I'm retiring from this, or I'm moving on from this. I got all my accolades. Now I'm going to start my own version of whatever. Something about vision boards, man, because I put it on a vision board, but I just put it there as like, a real futuristic thing, but it was just also like a 3-year plan kind of vision board. And it's surely enough, in 3 years, I found myself launching an agency. And for context, before launching my company, I worked at a few record labels, and my agency was originally supposed to be a website. Like this is, blog time. So I was like, okay, all the stuff that I'm learning and doing at the label, the things that people can do independently, whether they're a business or they're an artist, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like blog about those things and be a resource. Um, yeah. So I realized in my second label stint that I did not enjoy, um, so I think a lot of people get this thing wrong, right? Because they're like, oh, I want to work in the music business. Like put the business part first because that's what comes first. And so even though it is about music, about art, and it can be fun, it's still a corporate company, right? And there are corporate functions and corporate things that you can't really avoid, even though the product is music. So I always say, think about it like, you know, Coca-Cola, like they sell soda. So the bottom line is selling the soda. I don't care what other fun, cute stuff happens along the way and how it's about soda. And so it's the same thing. We could swap this out for Chiquita bananas. There are things that need to function and flow so that we can sell the most Chiquita bananas possible. And that does not always, I would say, favor, hey, I'm creative, I'm good at this, this is what I came here to do. And so when things change at a company, it changes the culture of the company. It can change your job role. It can change your workload. It can change all those things. And I didn't like that. I mean, I realized that like I didn't really like being tethered, as I would say, to a desk either. I mean, yeah, there's things you do in the field. Yeah, there's like events and stuff, but I felt like on a day to day, I'm like at this desk doing all this stuff. Um, and I'm definitely like more of a hands-on in the field kind of girl. And so it was that too. So there were all these different things. And ultimately it no longer became about the things that I was good at as to why I was at the job. It became more about whatever like other tasks needed to be done. And so we figure out like, okay, this is not gonna work. And I was getting ready to I was in like my third interview for another music company. They messed something up in HR, and I just was really caught between, do I keep working in music formally or do I try this on my own? Because I used to process invoices for outside agencies, and I used to see, I'm like, they're making more money than me, and they're probably happier than me. I was like, so I was like, yeah, I don't know. And I was really scared about it, but it was a moment in my life where I had to trust that my fate was my fate. I prayed about it a lot and I just told God, like, hey, like, if I'm supposed to just keep working for someone else, give me the job. It's not like I'm not interviewing and stuff, right? I'm like, if I'm supposed to do this over here, don't give me the job. And so after that like crazy debacle that happened, I was just like, this is my rainbow in the sky. And I have been operating Brown's Perfection Agency ever since. Yeah, and I think when it comes to building my own table, my goal was to take all the things that I loved about working for other people and other companies and other visions and, try to manage those things, but really don't do any of the things I didn't like. And this is from structurally, operationally, hiring, company culture, how I lead my employees, like all of that were things that I tried to implement. And it's going to be hard regardless. I think people underestimate what it takes to lead a company, lead people, then also dealing with clients, then also keeping clients, gaining clients. Like there's so many things that go into this. And then you at the beginning and end of each day also have to check yourself as a leader. Like how am I performing in all these areas? And this is before you get to like your personal, just me, right? Internally, family, friends, relationships. Um, and so yeah, but I wanted to build a world where um a bunch of different things. We're Black women who consume the highest. We're also the ones behind the marketing. I wanted to build something where people could get their hands dirty early and didn't have to be, 8, 10 years into marketing before they really touch a campaign and have any say so. I wanted to build something where I could choose my clients and find the perfect intersection and not just take on things because it's a check. I wanted to make people feel like their ideas had legs and made sense and like, yes, this could be a world-changing thing, so let's have at it. There were just things that I wanted to build and see. Like I wanted more creative rollouts. I wanted artists to understand what they're rolling out and like not just be like, okay, that happened, now what? Like I wanted to do, there's just things, there was a world I wanted to create, and I looked and I did not see it anywhere. I didn't see it in another music company. I didn't see it in another agency. I didn't see it in another startup company. I just didn't see it. I've yet to see it. And so I always tell people, like, you could be an incredible asset to someone's table. Like, I know it's very sexy to be an entrepreneur, but you can also be a very incredibly efficient power player. Like, you may be the final guest at a table to make this like the most amazing table, but if you really truly don't see what it is you would like a table to look like, what you want, if there's no way what you want is on the menu, the decor, everything is off, and you don't see it, you're supposed to build it. And that, I think that's how you differentiate that. Not just the idea that I want to build a table, but like building a table because there's no other table like the one you want to build. I think like that's the difference there, because sometimes people think they want to build a table. No, you just want to sit at the head of a table, which is great. It's okay, right? But like if you, I think that's really the difference. Like, it does it not exist already? If it doesn't exist, go build that thing, right? Because that's going to take some work. But if maybe it does exist, but there's just something that's not on the menu that you can bring, there you go, do your thing. But yeah, there was no table. I looked, y'all, high and low. I really
Girl.
Ooh.
wanted to work. I wanted to work somewhere.
But see, and this is the thing. I love that you're talking about this, and we talk about this a lot on this show, right? Like
Mhm.
I had a very similar experience to you, which is so funny. I love that we're having this conversation because I worked
Yeah.
in management, but on the TV film side. So I was in
Mhm.
management for years, multiple management companies, trying different
Yeah.
styles, different approaches. Everybody knows every label is different, every management company is different,
Mhm.
every agency is different. They have a different
Yeah.
approach, their ethos, all of that. So I feel you where it's like, okay, wait. I know that that feeling like I know that I'm walking in purpose. It just feels like maybe like there's not enough street lights on the street that I'm on right now. So let
Mhm.
me try and see if there's some more down the way or what. Like, you're walking in that right path, you're on the right track. It doesn't quite feel like it's like there yet, right? And then that moment of, okay, you know what? I've tried all these different things. To your point, maybe I'm supposed to create this universe, this world that I'm trying to like be in and that I'm passionate about. So I really, really love that you talked about that. And one of the things that you said, you differentiated between building a table and being the head at a table that's already built. And I
Yeah.
we don't talk about that enough. We don't give that enough breath. We don't breathe enough life into these two things because both are very valuable. You know what I'm saying? I
Yes.
think a
And I
lot of
think
times right
sometimes we
now
try to favor one over the other, like put them
well,
up against each other.
yes.
I'm like, no,
And
I'm
they
like, you're
don't have
either
to be.
efficient or you're not. Because there's some
Yes.
terrible tables out there that people have built.
And
They're not sturdy, the legs
they're
are
not
wobbly, the
sturdy.
food ain't good, like, and then there's some incredible tables that are headed by incredible people. Like, I think that it's about one being true to purpose like you mentioned, but also like finding where your seat is, like finding your position. I think that's why we're here to figure out how best we can contribute our unique gifts to the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's more so about, which is why even with coaching, I think people would think that I would only be coaching like entrepreneurs. Like, no, I'm coaching executives, people who need to figure out how to be their best selves in the arena that they're in. Like, this is not like, and I don't think, even in my career, I don't think that that is the only thing that I've done. Like, it hasn't only been business owners. It hasn't only been, it's also been like, how do I come into a space and help the people that are in this space maximize their potential? Like, that's I think, more so what this is about. Where can you best maximize your potential? Where are you not being, stifled and underutilizing your gifts? Yeah.
Beautifully said. And I think it's about a few things, right? It's about feeling that you can add value to that situation, but also that it's adding value to you, right? Like if it's not symbiotic in
Yes.
all senses, then that's not the place to
This
be.
is fulfilling. Yeah. Yeah. And I think we know, and again, easier said than done too, right? Because, you know, sometimes something is paying the bills and you have responsibilities. Sometimes things, felt good for a time and you're not sure which way to go yet or whatever the case is. But I think it's worth investing in and taking a chance on, because I always say this so much, but we really only get to do this one time that we know of. So I think, like, one thing that made me for sure know that I at least was supposed to not be at that label anymore was that I was waking up dreading going. Right. And that's no disrespect to anybody that was there, but everything in my body was saying, like, this is no longer the thing. And I think that it's hard to be in that space, but when you are, give yourself grace and give yourself time to adjust, because whether we should or not, I think you tend to start to identify yourself with what you do and how other people perceive you. And so it's like my body is more alert than like my mind. My body's like, hey, this is not the place anymore. And your mind is like, but what do you mean? This is the place. Every day I get up, I go, I'm Junae from da 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 da. Like, yeah, what do you mean? Hello, this is the place. So where is the place then if this is not the place? And you have to really listen to that. You have to listen to that. I think even this transition into I love how full circle this convo is, but even the transition like into I'm the marketing plan time. Like, even it's so many of my close friends, my family will tell you that for like the last like maybe year, I've been like, something doesn't feel like, I'm not feeling that thing. I'm like a machine when I'm on. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So when my body starts to be like, I'm like, okay, I need to really dig deep. Like, that's what I've spent most of the last year doing. Which is why when I do speak about I'm the marketing plan and the things that are coming, I hope that, I mean, whether they do or not doesn't matter, but it would be nice if people hopefully understand that, like, I am not a fly by the seat kind of girl. Like, I'm not going to wake up and be like, hey, let's do this. I'm going to do this. Like, I toil and strategize and develop and think, and I go into a place. Like, I took my first sabbatical last year. Like, I'm like, I need to get space to what's next, and like create the universe again. And it can be uncomfortable, it can be strange, it can be all the things, it can be exciting because you're like, ooh, something new, I'm excited. um but I think it's something that we should do more, and it's hard because the world is moving fast and life doesn't slow down, but you have to know how to slow down internally, so you, because you got to be fulfilled. I think that's so important. It's a part of your peace, it's a part of your well-being. Like, it's definitely a part of the hierarchy of needs, that they talk about. And so, yeah, man, it's important.
I have to ask you, given that you're someone who's gone from corporate to entrepreneur, going on 10 years, what would you
Right.
say are like the tools and the resources that got you from that point to this point? And like what kind of like major hurdles are you just like, I could have avoided this if I just had this in my arsenal?
Okay. Yeah. Well, money's always great. It's wonderful. So I always tell people, even my friends that are like going on their entrepreneurial journeys, that's like one of my most treasured things, is that whenever someone I know is like, hey, I think I have a business idea, they want to talk to me. I'm like, I'm like, right person to talk to. Let me tell you all the stuff that you should avoid. But I say money first because, like, grants exist, and you don't have to be a functioning business to win them either. You just have to have the idea. Every grant protocol is different, but for the most part, you just need to have the actual business concept and layout and stuff, and the mission and all that. Of course, there's loans. I'm not a loan girl. I've been blessed to not take anything out. And I think that was definitely a blessing in my business, but also could be a hurdles at certain times, not having the cash flow that I wanted or needed. Owning 100% is great. So when it's lucrative, it's amazing, right? Being able to pay people much higher than any other startup agency, let alone one owned by a Black woman, right? Being able to invest in the resources we need, understanding overhead, all those things. And I will say, though, I will say that is something that I learned at Columbia, right? Like I was heading, like, I'm working over there in finance and operations with the CFO. It was interesting because Columbia had a department. It was interesting, like marketing, the full marketing budget, all of that is ran through that department too. And so that was a major thing. So I can turn a budget any way but loose. Okay. I will flip a budget 100 times over, which is a great skill to have, but also understanding what it takes to run a company and like what things cost what. And so I've been blessed to be able to figure those things out. But I would say in terms of resources, like things that really help me, um, I'm a resource girl for real in general. Google, right? Google has all these different certifications that are free as a bird. They do a bunch of workshops, things like that. I was going to those like every week. Then eventually they had like a Google cohort. I like was one of the winners out of like, I don't know how many hundreds of people. And then we did like a summer thing. Like Google, yes, the certifications and stuff were helpful to have all the digital certifications, all those things, but really the networking aspect as well. Learning about other businesses, what other people were doing in their businesses, how to acquire certain things. Like it was just very helpful. And it's something that's free. All I had to do was have enough money to get on the train to go to get there, right? Shucks, free Wi-Fi in New York City. Shout out to Starbucks. I know we're not supporting Starbucks right now, but I'm gonna just say, prior to all of this, the
That free
Wi-Fi,
Wi-Fi, come on,
okay?
you gotta do what you gotta do.
It was me and that laptop, and we were in there trying to figure it out every day. I know this is like so left for research, and people are like, what? But I mean, let's go back to Google, right? G Suite. G Suite is the simplest, easiest, most efficient way, in my opinion, to run a business. And then you can run it from your phone if you have to. You can run it from your iPad if you have to, which I've done both of. You can, I think those are important. I'm an old school girl. Right now, I have a notebook and a pen right next to me. I keep my notebooks like encyclopedias. I literally use my notebooks front to back. And if right now I think of an idea that I had in like 2018, I know what notebook to go into, go. Like I'm like that. Like a lot of times I talk to new clients and I'm like, oh, what do you want to do? I'm like, oh, perfect. I have a full strategy for that already. Like we're just gonna take this, flip it around, tailor it to you. Look, cuts my work in half. And so definitely a notebook person. I'm really creative. So the notebook could be notes, the notebook could be musings, the notebook could be drawings, like it could be anything in there. Sometimes I take notes with markers. People look at me crazy. I will show up to a meeting with marker just because my mind needs to have a little more fun with whatever we're talking about. I would say those are good resources. And I'm trying to bring up resources also that don't have a barrier to entry, because I think a lot of times people name resources and like they cost money or like seem to need a certain level of access. I'm like, bare bones, you can build a 6 7 figure company with these things. Yes. G Suite, yes. Google, yes. Even each state, if I'm not mistaken, I know New York does for sure, has like the free business classes as well. I used to do those. A lot of them are like webinars. They can even match you up with a business mentor. So if you don't have a mentor, you have someone, they try to do it like in your area. You can meet with them once a month. Um, Also your bank, whatever business bank you have, I have a very good relationship with my banks. Um, for better or worse, like even when it's like, hey y'all, they still look out because they're like, well, we know one, they're loyal, they bring a lot of money in and out, and like whatever you need. And you can start that relationship from the ground level. You don't have to be a super profitable business. Go in, know who your branch manager is, know who your direct associate is, have that person. Listen, I got my people on text. I'm like, hey, this is coming. Is there any way we can expedite? Like you want to have that. And it turns out, people are smart. They're not only in their one arena. My banker gives me advice on the housing market and like a bunch of other stuff. He'll tell me about other clients that he has that, at this point, it's crazy because at this point, there's famous people, me and them have the same banker. And I'm like, okay, I'm in good company, right? But building relationships, that is really the real resource. A lot of people are like, how do you know this? How do you know this? It's like building relationships, being a person, being a human, you know, tell somebody happy birthday, congrats to their kid graduating from kindergarten. It doesn't always have to be this transactional, hey, I need this kind of thing. People enjoy good energy. It's very refreshing. Like just being human has been my greatest resource because you're not always going to get it right. Sometimes you're going to mess things up. Sometimes you're building a business. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things the wrong way. You only know what you know, right? But you do know what you do know. So and being curious, like, I think a lot of times people wait for things to come to them. Go find the thing. The universe supports action. The universe, God, or whoever, if you don't believe in nothing, life supports movement, action, boldness, effort. Like you will find it. And there's just so many resources. I feel like, again, people tend to post the ones that are sexy or the ones that they get in a percentage of if you click and sign up. And that's okay. I support it. Might be me. So don't do is this you? Yes, it is. But I want to also talk about the resources that are very simple to use. And I'll say, like, if I don't have nothing else, I'm gonna have that G Suite. I mean, there's also like, you wanna have a website. I know that's another thing. If you can't afford like a Squarespace or something, Milkshake, very easy. You can build that from your phone. You can have, I mean, of course, you want to have some sort of domain. GoDaddy's still, I think, a good idea because it can link to your G Suite. You can have a professional, sexy email, right? These things do cost money, but again, it just depends on where you are, what you're doing. What else do I actually like? You want to have some sort of email service. I ain't gonna mention what I use because I might change it, but I would say, yeah, I would say G Suite, your curiosity, and a pen and paper, man. I'm I'm a living
Come
die
on
by
now.
that.
You checked off all the boxes because you were like, okay, this is the digital, this is the analog, and this is just pure tenacity. Like, here you go, take it.
Yeah. Get to it. You got this. You got this. I mean, because I feel like everybody's always looking for a cheat code, and like the cheat code is the work. I'm sorry. I wish I had like, and I just can't lie to people, and not at this point in my career. Like I've no, it's work. It's work. It's tenacity. It's learning to be more adaptable. It's learning to be more agile. It's learning to fail. It's learning to lose and learning how to get back up, whether you get back up quick or it takes you a minute to get back up and your hip hurting, but getting back up. Like I think I always notoriously have said, I thought I was building a business for the longest time, but the business was building me. There are things that I have become and have like developed and have grown into. The person I've grown to become is this way for sure, because of business. It is mental and spiritual and emotional before it is tangible. And so whenever anybody's like, well, what's the advice? My advice is to get you right, because you'll notice, like, and you'll see this in big businesses, small business, anything. If the business is not right, you're probably not right. And so you gotta fix and make sure you're good, because when you're good, the business will be good. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things.
You dropped so many gems right then and there. Like,
Mic drop.
the resources alone are, our community is comprised of a lot of different types of creatives from a lot of different walks of life, right? But a big,
Mhm.
big, big thing that we've noticed, and we knew, going into it because we've been on this journey ourselves, just like you're talking about, is that people really like, once the inspiration is there, once the dedication is there, once you understand that the hard work is there, now it's okay, who do I have in my network that can actually shed some light on how to get this thing done? And so a lot of times we find that people really just want to know, like, yo, what resources are you using to help make things shake? And this was so valuable, down to the look. Sometimes you got to hustle. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. If that means you got to go sit at the coffee shop that has free Wi Fi for a second, go do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. So I really value that you shared, just kind of gave a nice variety, like Lottie said. So this helps us pivot pretty nicely into, right? So you shared a lot of different resources that you use to help function in your business. Now, one of the things that we both, Lottie and I were talking about this before the interview, one of the things that you do very well, one of the things, because there's many, but one of the things that you do very well is your presence across different social media platforms. And it's it's noteworthy because you may not get all the same, like, you kind of have to follow you on everything if you really want the full cake. You could get a slice if you a slice type of gal, girl, they, them, all of that person. You can get a slice if you go to this one, but the whole cake, you kind of gotta like pay a little bit more attention. So you gave us some resources that you use to function and operate. Can you talk to us a little bit now about, okay, how are you managing being present across different social platforms and
Because the
maintaining,
personal brand is strong, honey. The
that's
personal
what I was
brand is
about to say. Like,
strong.
the personal brand is
Thank
like,
you guys
that's the
so
gem.
much. It's so funny because I get a lot of like kudos about my personal brand. Like, I'll be at like a super marketing corporate thing and it'd be like, it's so nice to meet you. I love your personal brand. How are you doing that? And I'm like, thanks. I don't think I've even turned the heat up yet. I'm like, most day, like, I think I have really, like, this next era, I'm like preparing to really be more me than I've ever been, in terms of like, I really just want to live my life just being me, and which I've mostly done, but I think like full foot, both feet in, like whatever it is me coded, right? I've been preparing for that transition. And so I'm very grateful that people notice and appreciate my personal brand. Um, the secret is I'm myself. That's it. I'm literally just myself. Yeah, I'm literally just myself. Like, yes, I know marketing strategies. So if there's something specific I'm doing or launching or anything like that, I can apply like some marketing plan things to it. Um, but yeah, I'm really just myself. And I think I understand my family on each platform also. And so I understand what my family on Twitter likes. Like, I understand this is what we do, this is what we talk about. This is what we like, this is where we like to go. It's like having different groups of friends, right? It's like, these are my friends, we do yoga, we do kickboxing, we go get smoothies, and we kick shit, right? These are my friends who we about to turn up. We outside. We be in bed. hey, right? Then it's like, here are my friends. We just talking about business. We get into it, right? Like we're sharing resources where, it's kind of like that. But I'm myself in each place. So, like you said, if you happen to be my friend who's doing all those things, it's just Junae. If you're Junae at yoga, you wouldn't be taken aback at Junae at a party because it's like, oh, this makes sense. She's super fun in kickboxing class. And so it's kind of just, I guess, like that. Um, I also believe in the reality that humans are multifaceted. Um, and that I'm a person first before I'm anything that I've titled myself or anything that anyone else wants to title myself. You cannot control people's perception of you, but you always have power over your narrative because, I mean, your narrative is just what you're doing, who you are, how you're living. And I made up my mind a very long time ago. This may be very Aquarius of me, but that I wasn't going to be boxed in. I never, as soon as I start to feel like maybe people are just a little too like, oh, you're this and you do that, I start, oh no, I gotta go. I gotta become a trapeze artist or something. I gotta do something totally left because like I do not need you because I think it's dangerous. And I'm usually this is maybe an unpopular marketing executive opinion, but I think you can over niche. I think you can niche too hard and then you are still a human being and you are trapped in this cycle of, oh, I can only show up this way doing this thing to receive this validation. And I may be miserable in this, or I may have woken up today and don't want to do anything related to this remotely, but now I have to do it. Like I can Beyoncé of Marketing, but I can talk about nothing maybe directly related. Like I don't have to post about marketing every 30 seconds for you to believe me. Like it's gonna ooze out in some way, shape, or form just because that's what I'm interested in. That's who I am every day. So I think people also appreciate the humanism in me. And like if you are a person that, and it's weird because you run the risk of there's people who are like, oh, you talk about this. This is the only thing I want to see. I've actually encountered the opposite where people are like, oh, it's totally okay that you want to talk about anything, but I followed you for this, but actually, like, this is great. This is fun. Yeah, like, it's actually nice to see somebody not be a robot. And I'm like, okay, cool. Stay a while. Let's have a good time. Join the club. We got jackets. Like, it's just very free flowing. Um, I mean, guys, and this is not, I'm not telling you guys to do this, but like I don't even really schedule posts like that. Like I have to, like if I'm scheduling posts, it's because again, I'm in the middle of a strategy or something very specific. I'm testing something, but like I really just kind of like go every day. Now I do sometimes sit and plan because if I have like a lot of content, I'm like, okay, how do I want to put this out? How do I want to, but I can't be tethered to anything. That's just my big thing. Like would, I value my freedom in many different ways, but definitely in how I show up online and in real life. And I think one thing that I would say I do love is that when people meet me in person, they are very much like, oh, wow, you are the same online. Actually, you may be more fun in person. Like, and then when people say that to me, I'm always like, are most people not? They're like, no. Like a lot of people are the complete opposite of what they're portraying online. I think that's a little strange and difficult to maintain, but I've seen it. And I think that yeah, being yourself is the best thing you could ever do. And I think it's uncomfortable for people sometimes because they may see other people seemingly winning and they're like, "Well, I'm not like that." Yeah, but that person is not like anyone else either. They're themselves. And so you have to figure out what's great about you and find your people, or they'll find you. Just keep showing up. And I think showing up is what I also do well. There's not going to be much time passes. Like, there's no, like, oh, we ain't seen Junae in 3 months. Where's she at? You may not know what I'm doing, but you'll see me. You're gonna see me somewhere. There's proof of life every single day somewhere. And so I think those are the things. And I just try to have fun. Like I take myself seriously, but not too seriously. Um, Yeah, guys, these are just apps. Like I would say these are just transportation systems from like point A to point B, from your gifts to who needs to see them, from what you do well to who, needs what you do well. Like these are just transportation engines. These are just platforms where you can present yourself however you want and interact with others. Like it's social. Like it's social. You're supposed to, I love social. I'm like getting ideas. I'm getting inspired. I'm hearing good stories. Communicating with people. I'm understanding what's making people tick, what's making people upset, what's making them happy, sad, inspired, what people's pain points are right now in life. Like this for me is about people. Like it's not really about other things. And to do what I do well, you have to have an understanding of people. I have to go outside. Like I have to go to random restaurants and shows and things because I need to see like what people are doing and how they're interacting. Like I do a lot of people watching and talking to people, learning and culture and all of this adds in. And so I think what people are seeing and perceiving as like peak personal branding is, but it's really just peak creating a life that I love. Like that's what I do every day. And sometimes it's not a good day. And I think I'm kind of transparent about that stuff too. Like, and the lessons that I'm learning. And like some people are just following me for that. And I'm like, guys, there's nothing that I've ever said to y'all that I haven't lived. So yeah, that's that's the thing. Hope I answered the question.
Your ability to drop like 30 gems in minutes. We need the podcast, we need the book, we need the radio show, we need the, yeah.
Here,
That's funny.
top
One
tier.
one thing that really stood out to me is you saying like people see all these people winning, but they're winning because they're themselves and they do things their way. I would love for you to give us just your favorite example of that. It's like you being Junae, you having the
Yeah.
strategy that no one came up with, the idea that no one else had, and you
Hmm.
won big.
Okay, yes, great question. I thought you were like, what's an example of someone else? I was like, okay, me, I would say, dang, it's kind of like the whole thing, right? But the whole thing. Um, I would say definitely, I think for me personally, I see it the most when I do speaking engagements. So for example, when I did CultureCon a couple of years ago, that was in connection with LinkedIn, who chose me to be a LinkedIn creator because my posts from Twitter go crazy on LinkedIn, and like I have big, nice community on LinkedIn, and like so come a creator for them, and they're like, oh, we have a stage. Who do we? And they chose me, and I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, right? But doing CultureCon, I was able to speak on exactly what we're talking about right now, ideally, and like how to show up in the room and knowing you're supposed to be in the room and not having imposter syndrome or not, let me not say not having it because I think everybody has it, but not letting it control you. I think about having the opportunity to speak at Marketing Land, the inaugural Marketing Land conference. And then it's like, you'll see like it's like Neil Patel and like this other huge person, and it's like, and Junae Brown, the Beyoncé of Marketing. So speaking at Inbound for me was this huge thing because I remember for years I was like, oh man, that looks like a great conference. I would love to go, but I couldn't budget the ticket. I couldn't figure out how to like get passes for it, like because the passes are a few $100s and then you have to travel and all that stuff. So entrepreneur, I'm like, oh yeah. Ugh. And I would always have this thing about conferences, and I'd be like, well, I guess I'm not going till I'm speaking. And that's what happens. So it's like my first time there. I'm like, I've been watching from the free streams and the internet streets for years, and then it's like I'm a keynote speaker. Like that's nuts to me. And I don't take for granted the opportunity to be on stages and share my insights, share my journey, share what I've learned. I don't take it for granted either that I'm often the only or one of less than a handful of Black women on the bill of speakers, period. Um, I don't like that fact because I do think that there's so many more of us that have valuable things to say and should be on these stages. But I am happy to be able to speak on them and represent us well. I do not walk into rooms and change myself. Like I'm gonna have on a suit because I like suits, but it's gonna be like a pink suit with like feathers on the trim, or it's gonna be, hair, makeup, nails. Like it's gonna be me all the time, a cute shoe. Like it's still gonna be me. I'm not, I don't code switch. I think as eloquently as I speak in whatever room I'm in, is as eloquently as I'm speaking when I'm on stages. I love the ability to be able to translate things. I love to be able to, connect them to pop culture and urban culture, which is culture. I love to, I love when there's like women of color in the audience and they come up to me after and they're like, yes, and we can talk and people feel seen and they feel represented and they feel like it's possible. I love when I meet people and they're like, I started my agency because I followed you and I was like, I think this is so dope and you made me feel like I could do it. Like that to me is my biggest, best win. Like it's not a check. It's not like even the opportunity itself. I think it's being able to be impactful. And it makes me very emotional to talk about because that is my goal always is impact. I'm not I mean I like money. I like nice things. Let's not be confusing, right? I like those things. I love to win. I'm very competitive, but my biggest accomplishment will always be impact, will always be in making someone else feel like they can. I I know the moments in my life where I felt like I could, but I remember not having many examples of one doing what I do, right? And what the vision is, but even just very few people who bet on themselves and were doing that every day, like big, small, and different. I remember not necessarily having like mentorship. I remember all those things and how it feels building something that like no one else can see and having to convince yourself every day to keep doing it, whether it's making money, whether it's making sense, whether people support you, whether whatever. And so that's my biggest win is being able to take how I show up online and then of course in real life and in business and being able to be put in the position to share that energy with people in large spaces at one time. I think that I love and I think that happens too when I'm featured in a publication or things like that happen, but I would say those are my biggest wins. And then of course building a profitable business and making money off being me, that's incredible every day, huge blessing. I think I've done that. My entire career has been me being me really well, doing lots of work, but ultimately, I think being me really well has been my biggest accomplishment. Not conforming, not bending. I may shake, but I ain't gonna fall. Like I'm very dedicated to this. And once I figured out that it was bigger than me winning, and this was also about other people feeling empowered to win, that was the game changer for me. So, long answer to this question is that yes, that's my biggest accomplishment. That's my biggest win to date, and it probably always will be. Yeah.
This is hands down
So good.
This is like
So good.
there's so many things that were dropped in this. I'm still wrapping my head around everything as it's coming. Um, thank you. You have been so generous with your just experience, your perspective, intellect, the insight that you have to offer. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sure.
I'm
I think this
inspired
is
to take
definitely going
action
to
as
be
soon as we hop off here. I'm just like, okay, Google
exactly
certifications.
like
Great.
we'll be
Right,
doing it.
Like
right. I
grants.
mean,
Like, okay.
Let's
this,
period.
this conversation is so timely for me too. I always say like I love talking. I love talking to people. I love because I always say people are like, you drop so many gems, but like even I always say it, any opportunity to share your story is a good one because you're forced to remember how you got here. And again, like as I transition into all these things, as life is moving so fast, work is moving so fast, you don't really always get the opportunity to sit down and think about how far you've come, where you're going, how what your purpose is. Like I think redefining your purpose happens when you exchange. So I always tell people like talk to people, have real conversations because you can, especially in a creative entrepreneurial realm, can be very isolating and you feel like you are the only person in the world dealing with going through etc. Again, most of social media is somewhere we have like a small percentage of vulnerability, but most of it's highlight reel. And so you're looking at everyone looking every day like they're so happy, they're winning, life is great, everything's amazing. Most people don't talk about the failures and things. And I'm not also not one of those people who is like, you need to detail every downfall because I don't, right? You don't have to do that. But again, it can feel like you're the only one. It can feel like you're the only one who's been through this terrible moment you're in or this rough patch you're in. And we're constantly trying to go to the next place. And so when you have to sit and talk and recap, you're either remembering that, hey, I've been, when I was in that space, I thought this was terrible or whatever, but this was what catapulted me to here. Or you're hearing someone else say that, then you're like, well, damn, well, they went through that, or like they felt like that too, or they still feel like that. I would have never imagined, or oh, this is what they used to get through this. Like we all have these imaginary images of everyone, and their Sunday's best. And it's like the average day, most of us life wise are in sweats and mismatched socks, just trying to figure it out wherever you are. And so thank you guys for having me on here to share my story, to talk, to speak to the audience and the community that you're building, because I just think this kind of stuff is important. So, I just want you guys to know that every time you invite someone on, you're also helping them. It's definitely an exchange. So
I love it. I love it. So, my favorite question of all, every interview, how can we, the Hear Us Out community, me, Lottie, how can we be supporting you? How can we be amplifying what you're doing? How can we rally behind you? Like, talk to us a little bit about that.
yeah, so I would say in terms of what is coming up next, so it's definitely gonna be a lot of me being me. Excuse me. So it's gonna be a multimedia versions of that. But I'm the marketing plan is like I said, it's a universe, it's a movement, it's a lifestyle, um, but it's also a community. And it'll be newsletter form, podcast form, there'll be events, I love an event. There's also like, coaching, there's like all these different things. And I'm just building a place where people can feel empowered to figure out how best to not just tell their story, but live their lives. And it's I like to think it's a fully holistic thing and just experience. And so, yeah, just if there's anyone in you guys' community, ideally, I'll say it's for anyone trying to create a life they love, but definitely creative entrepreneurs. People who are building brands, people who are behind brands, people who are again building lives in non-traditional paths. Like, I think there's so many of us that we feel like we're doing anything linear, and like, this is just not, this is a life you have to create. It's not one that happens. And so, yeah, if anyone listening would, is interested in anything that we're doing, feel free to come over and hang out, amplify, share. That's really it. And just keep doing what you guys are doing, because I think it's really important. I do manage an incredible artist, All Star JR. We definitely are heating up the streets. So much fire music coming out, and we're just gonna keep knocking everybody over the head. So definitely take a listen, take a share. We'll be doing so many events too, so feel free to attend. Yeah, and I'm, like I always say, like, I love to connect with people. I love to be a resource. I love to mentor as well. So yeah, anything within that realm is cool. Yeah, products. Yeah, support your girl. See something you like? Hey. If you don't, hand it to a friend. That's really, really it on my side.
Thank you so much for joining us, Junae. This has been so
Thank you
fire.
for having me.
What a currency
Yes,
combo.
girl.
So much was just
Woo.
given. We love
Gems. Can't put a price on it. Priceless.
it. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Hear Us Out, the Music and Media Blueprint, brought to you by River and Lottie. If you love what you heard, hit that subscribe button. And of course, make sure to join our Laylo community for exclusive updates and behind-the-scenes access. Now remember, friends, keep going, stay motivated, and stay inspired. You got this. We believe in you. See you next time.